Art the Mentor here, back with another video. In this video, I want to discuss and break down middle mile versus final mile, and where do you get the most bang for your buck out of your box truck between the two. Okay, so first let's break down what the difference between the two are. So middle mile is moving freight from one warehouse facility to another. In other words, from dock to dock. So a warehouse facility to another warehouse facility. That's what the middle mile is. All right, so final mile is moving a freight from a warehouse facility or a logistics center to the end customer. So delivery to a customer's home or delivery to a customer's business. That's the final mile of the supply chain of the logistics process, from the warehouse or fulfillment center or logistics center to the end customer. Okay, so let's talk about some pros and cons for middle mile and why you should or you shouldn't choose middle mile. All right, so middle mile, like I said, is basically dock to dock. So if you're getting into the box truck game and you got you a 26-footer and it's just you, and you don't mind being out on the road, you don't mind being alone, you don't plan on scaling your business up. Let's say it's just you and your truck. You don't want to deal with any employees. You don't want to deal with any people. You just want to back into a dock, get some freight, and drive it to another dock and drop it off. Then middle mile may be for you. If you don't want to deal with multiple customers throughout the day, driving like city traffic, and things of that nature, you just want to deal with highway, dock to dock, then middle mile may be for you. Now, the difference is with dock to dock versus final mile is final mile, you're dealing with a shorter range, a shorter coverage area, where middle mile, you may have to drive a little distance to make a certain amount of money, whereas final mile, you may be just driving in a 50-mile radius, but you may have multiple stops. And on top of that, you're gonna have to have a partner or two partners on the truck with you. So that's one pro and con and comparison, so to speak, between middle mile and final mile. Okay, so final mile involves a little bit more work, physical work, I should say, than middle mile. Obviously, they both require driving. Most middle mile is over the road driving. Whether it's a short distance or a long distance, it's usually warehouse to warehouse you're gonna get on the highway. Final mile is more local driving. You're gonna make multiple stops, and you're gonna have some freight that you're gonna have to touch. One of the main things in final mile usually are furniture delivery and appliance delivery. So it can be heavy lifting, a little bit more strenuous. Now, the difference is, like, as far as the workload is concerned, usually with final mile, you have a dedicated route. So you sign on with a logistics company like your XPO, your JB Hunts. They put you on a contract, an account. Let's say it's Home Depot or it's Lowe's. Every day, Monday through Saturday, if you're on a 6-day contract, or Monday through Friday, if you're on a 5-day contract, you're running for Home Depot or Lowe's. You're dealing with a lot of appliances. All right. When you run the Home Depot or Lowe's, it's mostly appliances. All right. Let's say you're on Wayfair. Obviously, it's mostly furniture. You're probably going to run anywhere from 15 to 20 stops a day. That means you're going to see 15 to 20 different people, right? So you have to be a people's person. You got to deal with customers. Whereas middle mile, you're not dealing with any customers. You're dealing with a person at one dock, and you're dealing with the person at the other dock. And that's it, nowhere in between. Final mile, you're definitely lifting some furniture. You may have to do some loading when you get to the logistics companies to pick up your load. You're probably gonna have to load that stuff onto the truck in order of stops. Obviously, the last stop of the day, you're gonna load first. First stop of the day, you're gonna load to the front of the truck or the back of the truck, which way you wanna call it. And then you're gonna start doing that run. You're dealing with traffic, you're in the city. You may have some logistic situations. People order things that may it may just seem like it's too big. For instance, people ordering big French door refrigerators or big side-by-side refrigerators. If you live in a market where like New York or Chicago, where it's like third floor, fourth floor walk-ups, and you got to haul this big French door refrigerator up 3 flights of stairs. Whereas dock to dock, you're not doing any of that. Dock to dock, now you're running a nice distance. You might pick a run, it may be 500 or 600 miles, right? So you're calculating your fuel into that, right? Whereas in final mile, your run might be in a 50-mile radius every single day. So you're not burning that much gas. Something else with final mile, you can't do that alone. You gotta work in a team. Most final mile teams, depending on what account you're working on, it's usually 2 to 3 guys on the truck. If you're doing like, let's say Wayfair, 2 guys will be fine, right? But if you're doing like something like Home Depot, Lowe's, where you're dealing with appliances, I usually recommend 3 guys. With middle mile versus final mile, that's another compare and contrast, pro and con. Dock to dock, you're by yourself, right? You could run 3 trucks middle mile and only have 3 different employees versus if you're running, let's say, 3 trucks for XPO and you're doing Home Depot, all 3 trucks, that's 9 guys. So that's something to think about as well. Okay, so now let's talk about what works best for you. And that kind of coincides with the money aspect as well. What works best for you? Where are you going to get the best bang for your buck for your box truck? Is it going to be final mile? Is it going to be middle mile? And the answer to that really is up to you. Me personally, I found my success in final mile. I have my reasons why, we do middle mile, I prefer final mile, you know what I'm saying? And I have my reasons. When I found my most success in middle mile, it was during the e-commerce boom. Not what you're seeing right now. I'm talking about the rise of e-commerce when companies and logistics companies were still trying to figure out this thing, what we now know is e-commerce. I was on the early adoption of it. So I saw a lot of money early on because companies were paying a lot of money early on because they were getting bombarded and systems weren't 100% effective that were in place at the time, and they weren't as polished as they are now. So that's what I like to do. Now, if you're in a market where it's easy for you to find employment, you don't want to run your trucks. Let's say, for example, let's say you got an older fleet of trucks and you just don't trust them OTR like that, and you want to keep them close to home, and you have no problem finding guys to work, you might want to go final mile. If you got, let's say, newer trucks, or you rent trucks, or you got newer trucks, or you lease trucks, or you got newer trucks, or you went out and bought a new truck and you're just not interested in dealing with customers, you're not really interested in dealing with a bunch of employees, you rather just have your truck go to one dock, pick up some freight, get on the road and go drop it at another dock, find something there, and bring that driver back home with the load. And just keep repeating that process, that may be the way to go for you. It's less paperwork, less people to deal with on end to end, and less people to deal with in between as far as employees. The money aspect of it is pretty much, it can balance out actually to be the same. You can run a local final mile route and make anywhere from $750 to $1,200, $1,300 a day. you can pick a middle mile route that'll pay you 600, 700 a day. Obviously, you're going to be doing a lot more driving, but you're dealing with one person, right? One employee, or just you, versus that final mile route. It's 2 or 3 guys, and they're making 15 to 20 stops. But like I said earlier, they're not burning as much fuel. You know, your claims. One thing about dot to dot that I can say, less happens in the final mile process. Like, a lot of things can happen in the final mile process versus the middle mile process, I should say. Less screw ups happen in the middle mile process. It's hard to kind of screw something up in the middle mile process, whereas in the final mile process, things have got tossed around an extra step. You got refusals, you got more people you got to deal with, more inner-city driving, getting stuff to a customer's doorstep and they're refusing it, or it doesn't fit, or claims is another big thing. A lot more claims on the final mile process than on the middle mile process, because you're actually entering, and this is if you're doing white glove or threshold, you're actually entering the customer's property. So there's more, you're exposed to more liability during the final mile process, whereas you're not really exposed to people's personal property on the middle mile process, because like I said, you're going dock to dock. So unless it's like driver error, like it has to be driver error, like really bad driver error, if something happens on the middle mile process, either with the paperwork or they get into an accident, you know. So but the money can equal out to be the same. It's just one is going to have, with middle mile, to get X amount of dollars, obviously you got to go further, which is going to take you longer. Middle mile, you're going to make X amount of dollars every day, but you're doing more strenuous work, and your liability is higher. So it's really personal preference on what you want to do. Like I said, I prefer final mile. This is what I've been doing. This is where I've seen my most success. We do middle mile, but I prefer final mile. And pretty much that preference is up to you on what you want to do. I talk to people every day. They prefer final mile. Some people prefer middle mile. Like I said, it's completely up to you. And in closing, I just want to say that when you do go out and purchase your box truck and you decide to get into this business, just make sure you do really good research on your market. All right, do research on your market and kind of understand your market before you make a decision, because you may make a decision where you're basing it off what you want to do, whereas you may need to base that decision not solely off which niche you personally want to dive in, but where or what your market has a need for, and then kind of mesh everything together and then make a decision that way. Other than that, go to www.boxtruckcourses.com. Sign up for your one-on-one mentorship with me. Got affordable mentorship sessions, 15-minute, 30-minute, 60-minute sessions. I also got a bundle pack, 4 sessions over the course of 4 weeks. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on TikTok. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date on all the upcoming videos. And I'm out.
True story, new story, 2-story condo, B&B, 4 bath, 1 me, no key, like I did a B&E. B&Me so good, so hood, so now